I think that's one of the old cliches that I absolutely hate when people be like, come into the footy club and leave all your other stuff at the door. It's like, we're humans. It doesn't work like that. Like,
yeah, I feel like that it's changed. Like it would have used to been like that because that was the time that they were living in. Where we live in a time now with social media and all this. There's so much going on in so little time. Like you get instant updates, like within a second, and it's constantly weighing you down. But back in the day, where you weren't receiving messages instantly, you had to you were getting faxes, and that sort of stuff, where it would take hours and.
100%.
You could afford to leave stuff away because you come out and you'll be almost the same. Your life would be the same. Whereas if you were to go to training now, spend 2 hours, you come out and we're into lockdown or literally. I did a podcast with Jono Marsh. We started on the Friday and we went into the podcast. We went into the podcast just like normal life.
Yep.
And then we turned everything off, looked at our phone, and like, oh fuck, better go.
4 hours. We got to go to the shop, get your toilet paper.
I know. What is that?
That was ridiculous.
You can't expect people to drop things these days, and
I'm so glad that perspective's changed, but it still, I think, has a long way to go.
Another one I was talking to Barbie about as well is about training. How much training and playing needs to be pleasure. You need to be able to enjoy the training and the game, but at the same, Muhammad Ali had a great quote. It was like. Great, or something about hard work, but you got to keep going. Something about being hard, and he hated every minute of training, but he knew that it was for greatness. But people look at that. If I was to look at that quote now, and I were to go hate every moment of training, we'd be like, "Fuck, this is shit." I don't want to go back anymore.
You get why he's saying, and I love that quote as well. But it's like, you shouldn't hate it because if you hate it, then how are you going to perform well?
You can't go.
You can't
because we've got other things outside of life that probably beat you down as well, and that's going to keep pounding on the.
Which is why I like when people talk about wellness stuff now, and they're like, "Oh, we don't do it." I'm like, how can you not do it? How can you not care about it? Because you have to understand what's going on in your athlete's life, to then understand why maybe they're not training well or why they hurt their leg. Because it all adds up together. I think anyone that, and there's definitely people out there, anyone that's like, "Oh no, it's not important." I'm like, are you really doing your job properly if you don't keep track of that stuff?
How do they kind of combat that in AFLW? Do you have an actual wellness coach or do you have a wellness advisor, administrator, whatever you?
Yeah, at West Coast we're pretty lucky. So Jan Cooper did all our kind of wellness stuff. But so season 1, Liv was more in charge of it. She sent out all our wellness questionnaires and stuff. Yep. And then would check in with Coops and be like, hey, so-and-so red flagged here, or I think you just need to touch base on this person, just from having general conversations with people. Didn't happen so much this year because the coach that we had didn't really think it was important, which I think is probably why a couple of people got hurt, because that stuff just wasn't getting addressed, and too much was left to too few. Or we were doing it Monday at 4:00 and we started training at 5. What are you supposed to do with that information in an hour? Yeah, nothing. And we only did it once a week, and we trained 4 times a week.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Why do it then?
Why? Right, I think it was just a ticker box, and as an S&C coach, it used to piss me off a lot.
You can swear, it's fine.
Cool. Well, I hated it, and I was like, "This is fucked." And I told a couple of people, I said it in a nice way, and I was like, "Why don't we do it more?" And they're like, "Oh, because the boys don't do it." I'm sorry, the boys only have. I'm sure they have other things to worry about, but the boys that's all they have to do. We're all working, studying. Dan Hooker's got a child, people have partners, families, like the boys do, I know. But, there's all this other stuff going on that you can't just be like, oh, well, the boys only do it once a week. It's like the boys live totally different lives to us.
Yeah, and you live totally different lives to them.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, you can't compare, what the men program does to the women's program, because it just doesn't work. None of it transfers across. So that's interesting that they said that. Because it's not and we had nothing initially on. They're the same. They're not the same. They're not similar or all the same. And we had none of the stuff on our menstrual cycle, which everyone is pretty clear now that has a big impact on how you perform, and it just wasn't in there. And I was like, surely this should be. And then we had some lady come in, Lucy Peach came and spoke to us, and then the next week our menstrual cycle tracking was in our wellness. Oh, really? And I was like, better late than never. But because also West Coast started from a new club came in. Do you feel like they were behind the 8 ball because that all maybe at the start was there? Initially we had lots of stuff set up really well, and then because of they said it was because of COVID, a couple of things changed, and then structured up differently with cost cutting and stuff like that. And it seemed like some of the off-field structures we had in place kind of just got pushed aside because the new people that we had brought in didn't care as much about that sort of stuff, which then obviously impacted the way that other things were handled, and which is really disappointing because we had lots of things well set up. Even in the academy that we had pre being officially an AFLW was run like better than I would think some maybe even AFL programs are run. So for it to go from really good, I thought, obviously we didn't have the on-field results that we wanted in season 1, but off-field, like there was a lot of good things set up in place, that were really good that then you could grow on. So it definitely felt like we took a bit of a backward step, particularly in that wellness space. And then, I mean, Jan Cooper's had her own health battles. You can't leave it up to her to do everything because, she's only one person. Well, obviously, luckily we had a couple other people helping her out, but I think, they had too much to do and not enough people actually listening to what that was saying. But I think, well, I'm not there anymore, but I think they've tidied a few things up, which is good.
That's good to hear this back on track.
Yeah, fingers crossed it is.
Yeah, fingers crossed, because the last thing you want to, especially with the club so prestigious like West Coast, like with such a good name in the AFL, and even if they don't transfer that over in the AFLW, it seems to be a bit of a shame.
Yeah, and like they had it set up really well, so then for those things to kind of fall away.
Yeah,
but yeah,
as well, because you want to have you want to be you want all teams to be competitive.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
if off field stuff isn't kind of working, then you're never going to get on field results.
No,
that happens all the time. All the time. You're looking at why a club on the bottom.
Yep.
Well, it's going to be.
There's definitely because everyone's got access to stuff, so it's like what's going on behind the scenes that's not working. So, but I think they've definitely taken on a lot of feedback on particular area, and I think that's definitely going to get fixed up. So, did
you have little pod groups and that sort of stuff?
We did in season 1.
Yep.
We didn't really this year.
Okay.
Again, don't really know why, but yeah, we definitely did the year before.
Do you feel like that's kind of another bit of beneficial doing that? You can kind of get close to those kind of core group of people and then kind of share things that maybe you might not actually share with other teams.
Yeah. Well, we do it at Subi as well. We have pod groups because for that exact reason. We do it more from like a skill, like so they can work on that stuff together. So it's like one leadership group member spread around. But yeah, exactly that reason. So you can touch base. Not everyone's going to use it because some people don't feel comfortable in that space still. But I think at least having that option there, it's like a little separate group. You don't isolate yourselves obviously from the rest of the team, but having that opportunity to like, hey, this is a small group of like 5 or 6 of you that can then communicate together. Then if there's obviously a big glaring issue, your pod leader can take that further if it needs to be taken further. So yeah, I definitely find them really helpful from when I've experienced them as a player. And then even now as the coach at S&C coach at Subi, it's a bit easy to touch base. Like if I need to send out a message, I'll send it to the pod leaders. I'm like, hey, can you talk to all your girls about this or that?